Hey my friends, it's a late Boy Scout and you're joining me this Vlog Thursday for a knife head-to-head. We are pitting the Spyderco Manix 2 up against the Spyderco Paramilitary 2. Now, there are a few reasons why we want to do this. Number one, it's kind of a request. I've had people ask me, what's better, the Paramilitary 2 or the Manix 2? Which one should I get? Number two, these knives were designed by the exact same guy, Eric Glesser. Has a signature right there on the Paramilitary 2, right here. Awesome guy, if I haven't mentioned that before. Saw him at SHOT Show. And it's on this one as well. All right, so he's got his knife, or his signature on both of these knives. Also, they fit the same role. They're both tactical / EDC knives. You can carry them for everyday tasks, but they're also beefy and tough and great as a tactical use knife. And they're both from Spyderco. And the price range is not too far off. So, I mean, there's a lot of reasons why you might consider, going for one of these knives. In the case of this Manix 2, this one is S30V. You can see it right there on the blade. And this is actually coated in black. You can tell that this one is not coated, but it is S30V. Quick note on the coating. The coating that Spyderco uses on this, I don't have details on that handy, but it is very durable. If you have any questions about it, if you're worried that that's not going to be a durable coating, trust me, it's way durable. So anyway, let's talk about some of the specs to get into these two knives as we pit them against each other. Two of Eric's children going up against each other. We're going to find out which one is best. Actually, we probably won't find out which one is best. I'll give you that little spoiler right now. But we are going to try to explore the good qualities of each one of them. This, by the way, on the heels of the Manix 2 lightweight review. Many of you saw that. And very favorable review. Love this knife. And we could do a head-to-head of those two as well. This one's 5 ounces. This one's like 3-ish ounces. That's basically it. This is BD1 steel. I think there are new versions of it out, perhaps with S30V or some other steel. I can't remember. But anyway, new versions of that are out now and probably coming out in the future as well. So, all right, so let's see. Let's go with some specs before we cover any other opinions, because specs are certainly important and they will help you sort of decide, which one do you want to go for? Do you want to go for the one that's a little heavier, the one that's a little lighter, the one that's a little longer, lock types and all that stuff. We're going to try to cover all of that as we talk about these two knives. So which one do we want to cover first? We'll go with if I can blow the dust off my phone and bring it up. Okay, so the Manix 2, the specs on that one, what we've got is an overall length of 8 inches. Do I have that right? Yeah, the Manix 2 overall length of 8 inches. A blade length of 3.375, a cutting edge of 2.88, blade thickness of 0.125. Do I have that right? Yeah, 0.125, so it's about 1/8 of an inch. S30V steel on this one, leaf-shaped blade, flat grind on it. We've had many different varieties of the Manix 2. That's another good reason to pit these two up against each other. We've seen lots of different versions of the Paramilitary 2 and different steels and different handle scales, and lots of different versions of the Manix 2 with different blade grinds, different blade steels, and so forth. So also, well worth talking about these two knives at the same time. This one has the black coating on it. G10 handle scales, very grippy. Compared to the Paramilitary, identical grit, I would say, on these two, these G10 handle scales. Let's look at those real quick, up close. In hand, they feel identical. In camera, I don't know. They kind of look a little different, do they? I don't know. They feel pretty much identical to me. So I'm going to call that 6s. 6 to 1/2 dozen to the other. The lock on this, let's talk about the pocket clip first. The pocket clip, you can see, is tip up only. So when you close it, tip goes up, and that's the only way you can carry it. You can flip it to the other side, but it will only ride tip up. Lots of you guys prefer that anyway, so it's not a big deal. The Paramilitary 2, on the other hand, 4-way repositionable. You can put it wherever you want, carry it up or down, left or right, easily. Also, the Manix 2 has what's called the ball bearing lock on it. And I don't know if we're going to be able to get a good view of what that ball bearing does. I'll pull out my little flashlight here and just try to give you guys a good look at that. If we can get in there, it's worth looking at. So you can just, I don't know if you can see it or not. We'll try to pull it back here, then maybe you can see the ball bearing. Yeah, I can see it. Yeah, you can just barely make out that little ball bearing in there. So that's basically what happens is we've got this portion of the blade, and we'll try to get the light back in there again. You can't see it here, obviously. But as we start to rotate the blade out, you can see that little indentation there, that opening, and then the ball bearing locks into that. Okay, so that is how that ball bearing lock works. It is different from the Benchmade Axis lock. It feels the same as you're operating it, but it's quite different internally. We've got these two tabs that you pull back on that pull that ball bearing back. There's a spring in there that you probably saw in the close-up. So there's some spring tensions. You pull back on that, and then you can close the knife. You can obviously do that one-handed or two-handed. You can kind of flick it closed, flick it opened, by pulling those tabs back and going like that. So you can do that truly ambidextrously, and also without getting your hands in the way of the handle. Okay? You can close that all the way. By the way, one last thing I'll talk about this particular Manix 2. This one is not mine. This belongs to my friend Joe Carden. At the time that I'm shooting this video, he doesn't know that yet. So you may see a video soon, or may not, I don't know if I'm going to shoot it or not, where Joe receives this knife and hear a little bit of the story on that. But anyway, this is going to Joe Carden soon. So Joe Carden, the holster maker, by the way, and buy a Joe Carden holster at cardenholsters.com if you're interested. Best dang holsters in the world. We were talking about the lock. It's a ball bearing lock. It's strong. It's great. It has had some criticism in the past, but Spyderco has fixed whatever problems it had. It's a tough lock, and I don't think you're going to have any issues with it. It's got some great ergonomics on it. We've got a forward finger choil here that you can choke up to and get some fine work done, and choke back on it with a nice finger guard, and also your thumb way up there on that leaf-shaped blade. Feels great in hand. It's just a fantastic knife, the Manix 2. I should say the full weight Manix 2. And we also want to point out that the liners in here, not drilled out. Okay? Not drilled out to save weight at all. This is built more for the toughness and the durability factor than for ease of carry or lightweight. All right? That's what you get with the Manix 2. You've also got a pretty generous lanyard hole there. Let's compare that against the Paramilitary, which looks like it's equally generous. So both of them have gigantic lanyard holes. This one is a little further up, which may be an issue for you, may not be. So, this one's a little more towards the actual bottom of the knife. You might prefer that. Anyway, a lot of great things about the Manix. Also, it's got lots of jimping all along the back here, up here as well, and it's all part of the liner. All right, they designed this knife to be high traction, high durability, and that's the kind of performance I expect from the Manix 2. Now let's move on to the Paramilitary 2, because I think I've covered everything there is to talk about on the Manix as far as details and specs are concerned. We can get to some of those specs on the Paramilitary 2 as well. If I can just bring that up real quick. It's a fantastic knife, and you've seen me use this hard in the past in videos that I did with Blade HQ, and some of that I showed on my channel as well. It's an outstanding knife, and outstandingly tough. Okay, we'll cover some of the specs on it now. The overall length is 8.28, so slightly longer than the Manix. The blade length, 3.44, again, slightly longer than the Manix 2. Cutting edge, 3.06, again, slightly longer than the Manix 2. The blade thickness, 0.14, so that's actually going to be slightly thicker than the 0.125 of the Manix, at least at first. There at the blade stock, where it kind of starts. It tapers very quickly, and they both go to, at least these two versions of the knives, go to a very, very fine point. So, what they start off at may matter to you, may not. The fine point is something worth considering on these two knives. Moving on to some other specs on it. This one, as I mentioned before, is S30V. They call that a clip point blade shape, or at least Spyderco does. This is a plain edge, obviously. Handle length is 4.81. Handle thickness, 0.46. I don't remember if we covered handle thickness on the Manix. Let's go ahead and put them side by side to look at those. They're very, very close. Basically the same to me, effectively the same, I would say. So in pocket, they're going to feel roughly the same. I would say, though, that there is a particular width. I don't know what you want to call it, the sort of the breadth or the depth or whatever, but you can see that there's a bit more, this is a bit wider here than the Paramilitary is. When I put this in the side pocket of my TrueSpec 24/7 pants, the Paramilitary fits in there pretty well. A little bit tight, but it fits. The Manix 2, not so much. Doesn't quite make it in there. All right, so that's worth noting. It does take up a little bit more space in your pocket with that dimension right there. Next point I want to make about the Paramilitary. The weight is 3.75 ounces, considerably less than the 5 ounces of the Manix. And we talked about why. There's no drilling out in those liners, whereas with the Paramilitary, what can we see here? Yes, we can see that they are drilled out right here and up there to make this a lighter knife. Also, those scales are nested down inside of the G10, which is milled out with a space for those liners, which makes, again, a potentially slimmer profile knife, handle I should say, lightens it up, gives it good strength, while also just, a nice slim profile, whereas the Manix, the liners come all the way to the edge, not nested down inside of the G10 at all. So, construction is quite different on these two knives, and there's a lot of reasons why you would be sort of confused about which one is better. Is one of them better? Man, that is almost impossible to say. I will tell you that the compression lock on the Paramilitary 2, and we haven't talked about that yet, is just fantastic. Either one of these knives is going to be very smooth and very quick to deploy. Either way you like to do it. You can just use the lock to open it up. Got your fingers out of the way the whole time. Thumb opening it up. Either one of these will be very fast. You just kind of have to sacrifice a little bit of side-to-side rigidity if you want that to be really fast. That's the case with almost any knife. But the lock on it I've tested, and I know that this is an extremely tough lock. I've done less testing on this lock, but just the way that it's constructed appears to be extremely tough. So I have full confidence in it. Again, there's not really any reason or any way we can say which one of these is better. I think that they're both fantastic knives. The Paramilitary 2 is probably my favorite knife all around for just about every kind of use. The Manix 2 is extremely sexy, very nice to play with, to hold, to use, comfortable in hand. It's also a fantastic knife. You can sort of tell that these were the brainchild of the same person, because so many of the important functional aspects are shared on these two. Ergonomics are fantastic. You've got a forward finger choil up on this one as well that you can kind of get up there and do some fine work with. Ergonomics are great. They're fast. They're strong. They're beautiful. Which one should you buy if you can only buy one? Well, gosh, I mean, good luck choosing. The Manix 2 and the Paramilitary 2 are both excellent knives from Spyderco, excellent designs from Eric Glesser, and I'm glad I don't have to choose between the two of them. But that's been a little Vlog Thursday head-to-head between the Paramilitary 2 and the Manix 2. Again, this one's going off to my friend Joe Carden very shortly. Thank you all very much for watching, and we'll see you later.